Great.
Hello, once again, my fellow astro nerds, astrology super nerds, as I could call you all. Today, we're going to look at the star Spica, who is the left hand of Virgo, the left hand of the maiden. She is the handmaiden's star, and she is okay. So let's get the most important bits out of the way first. She is not as powerful as the stars that we've talked about previously, which are Regulus, Fomalhaut, Antares, Aldebaran, and Gemma. Those stars give you high status. Spica does not. Spica doesn't give status at all. She is absolutely not a star of status or of wealth or of success. She's not. She is a star of spirituality and of study. And that's it. So anybody who tells you Spica is a really lucky star, yes, she is, but not in the conventional way. Because you have Spica does not mean you're going to be rich and famous. Absolutely not. You will be very, very spiritual, and that is a blessing in and of itself. This lighting is terrible. I don't know what's going on. So yeah, that's really the main thing out of the way first. Spica. She's ruled by Venus and Mercury. So we have this conjunction or combination, which is indicative of spirituality. So if you see Venus and Mercury conjunct in a chart, you know that this person is going to be a very spiritual person. There are other stars of spirituality as well, but they are less significant. And for some reason, they're not actually. Fomalhaut is one of them. And Deneb is right next to Fomalhaut. So they're kind of like very, very similar, Deneb and Fomalhaut. And there's one more called Vega. Vega, which projects into the knee of Capricorn, which is about 23, 24 degrees Babylonian sidereal Capricorn, Vegan Allen sidereal Capricorn. But that's not important. We're going to talk about Spica. She is at the end of the 30th degree, in fact, of Virgo. And that would be like the 25th degree of tropical Libra. Easy to remember. And she is very bright. You can see her very well in the sky. And she's very close to the ecliptic. So, in theory, they do say in theory that the power of a star is dependent on two things. One of them is taking you on. The other two are that it is close to how close is it to the ecliptic and how bright it is. So those are the two most important themes or factors. However, it's not really that simple just because Spica is extremely close to the ecliptic and she's also very bright. So just because she's bright and close to the ecliptic, we don't necessarily observe that she has a big load of good fortune to give, on the material level. Of course, I'm talking just about the material fortunes here. And however, she does make people obviously spiritual, but primarily intellectually spiritual, using their mind to analyze, to think things through philosophically rather than just intuiting. And again, I will go over this again for everybody who's new or maybe this is your first video with me. You only have a star influencing your chart if it is close to the MC, the ascendant or the rising point, or the horizon. Rising horizon actually is the technical term. The descendant or the setting horizon, the sun, or the moon. Those are the only places where if a star is close, it influences your chart. If you've got Mercury with Spica in the 12th house, I don't want to hear about it. You don't have Spica, okay? Let's stop talking about that. The stars do have an influence on the planets, but it's very weak. Very, very weak. It's so weak that I don't even have time to look at it when I do a reading. Maybe if I did like a 3 or 4 hour session, which I never do. But if I did that, then maybe I would get a chance to look at it. But it's very, very weak, way, way, way down in the order of consideration. So don't worry about that. That's to understand the essence of the stars. That is absolutely not important in the slightest. So again, ascendant, MC, descendant, sun, moon. 5 helegial or life-giving places. Of course, the MC and the descendant are not actually helegial, but they're angular, so they have a connection with the ascendant, which is a helegial place. All right, so anyway, that's all out of the way. So let's say somebody has Spica rising, 25 degrees of Libra on the ascendant. This is pretty common, actually. I experience it a lot in my life because my Mars is with Spica. So I have a lot of sexual chemistry with women who have Spica rising, and a lot of women who I've not necessarily been with, but who I've been connected to, they have a very strong Spica, usually rising. Yeah, to the point where I can even like feel it now. I'm like, oh, okay, this girl has Spica rising. It's crazy. It's actually insane. So, what was we going to talk about? Oh, yeah, so 25 degrees of Libra rising. Okay, my Mars is at 25 degrees of Libra. Tropical. 29 degrees Virgo, sidereal. So we got Spica rising. Now, because Spica is rising, we know that it's an important star for this chart. And because it's an important star for this chart, we should look at what makes an aspect to it. So if Spica is rising and maybe Saturn is in conjunction, I've thrown myself a curveball because I've never seen this. Probably because if Saturn is rising with Spica, Spica will have no influence. Saturn will completely obliterate her. They generally say the same thing about Mars as well, that if Mars is with Spica rising, there's no Spica. Spica is not influencing this chart. Looking at this yogurt can here, I'm like, that's such an interesting thing to have in the background. Anyway, in the forefront of the background. Ridiculous. So Spica, so yes, Saturn and Mars, they canceled her out. You could say that Saturn and Mars, they cancel most stars, actually. Except the stars that are connected with them. So Regulus, for example, we looked already, Mars doesn't cancel Regulus. Or a bad Mars doesn't cancel Regulus. A bad Mars can cancel Venus, not Venus, can cancel Aldebaran. But it's like I said, Aldebaran's a very sensitive star. And that makes sense, right? Because you can imagine if everybody who was born with Aldebaran was as rich as Aldebaran intends, the world would be a very different place. So yeah, there can be that cancellation of Aldebaran there. through those planets. I'm trying to think of another example. I usually only see Aldebaran get cancelled out actually by the bad planets. But just keep it in mind that in theory, other stars can be cancelled out as well, like Spica being one of them. And so Spica makes people who are spiritual, and the theme of Spica, the individual character, is sexual purity and gratitude as well. I've experienced the gratitude is more on a subtle level. But if you want to connect with the spirit of the star, it's through gratitude. I remember a couple of years ago, we had a meeting on a full moon, spiritual meeting on a full moon, and the full moon was conjunct Spica. And the theme of that meeting was gratitude. And we explored it very deep. It was very deep, actually. So, yeah, that's why I say gratitude. And also because the hand, right, it's giving a hand. So helping, generosity, but gratitude as well for generosity. So she has quite a few subtle connotations there. She's definitely a powerful star. If you see her in a chart, she's definitely defining that chart. We can look at a couple of examples soon. Her main theme is sexual purity, though, but more about the romanticized love, romanticized sexual purity as well. It's definitely stronger in women. Oh, well, actually, now that I think about it, that's not true. Yeah, I haven't seen that many men with Spica. It must be my Mars, because if my Mars is with Spica, men, that's going to create conflict with them. But with women, it actually creates sexual tension. So that's curious. Very, very curious. But yeah, in general, interests in the occult, interests in spirituality and astrology, all kinds. I mean, it can be, like when we say spirituality, it can be all plethora of different things, depending on that person's own karma, and their, where they live, their life trajectory, their culture, their background, everything like that. So, you may see an astrologer star in the chart of somebody who's never encountered astrology. And that just means that they'll be very into the esoteric side of life, which they always are. So yeah, Spica can make people religious, but also spiritual. Well, if they are religious, they'll be spiritual too. That's what I mean. Yeah. All right, let's have a look at some examples. Gotta find them. Got some great examples. Who's this? That looks like a Spica chart. Who the heck is this? Because this would be a fantastic example. Got to remember whose chart it is. Oh, yes. All right, cool. I don't actually know this person. I'll share my screen. I don't actually know this person very well, but we can make some guesses here. And it's a good example, right? Because we've got here Spica rising, pretty common, with Mars rising as well. So in theory, Mars should cancel out that Spica. In practice, however, well, it's hard to say in practice, actually, because there's other spiritual things here. Like, look, she's got Spica rising with Venus and Mercury in conjunction right on top of it. So either way, she's going to be a very spiritual person. But maybe this Mars here complicates things. And Mars with Venus will be sexual. So we definitely know this person has some sexual vices. Did Dinklage have it? I feel like he does. Yeah, it looks like he... No, wait, no, he doesn't. He's got something else. He had the head. Yeah, no, he doesn't have Spica. Just trying to look. Oh my God. We can look at my ex-girlfriends. These are... Who is this? Really? But you can see here, we have a day chart, and Spica is kind of rising. She's not really that close, but Ruman likes to say Spica within the whole sign, even. She can have some sphere of influence. But she was Spica rising with Mars during the day, so this will be very bad. And not only that, Saturn is in opposition. Well, Jupiter's also in opposition, but Saturn there too. So that's a pretty intense life there. And this girl, she is religious. Is she spiritual? Not sure yet. Not sure yet. The jury's out on that one. She does have this Venus-Mercury conjunction as well, actually, in the chart. So she should be. She should be at some point. God, where's the one that I'm looking for? PA. Okay, gotcha. There we go. Found it. So again, Spica exactly rising. Where do I find these women? And she has Venus is very close to Spica. Venus and the moon. So this will make her, so she will be spiritual and interested in spirituality, but she'll be very intuitive, much more intuitive and feelings based, you know, with the moon and Venus both there. But the invisible moon is like Saturn. So there will be difficulties, you know, or some well, there's a mixture of things actually. Mixture of things. With the invisible moon, it can be magic and hidden lore, hidden knowledge, hidden powers and magic, but it can also be fears and isolation connected with this theme of spirituality, which is probably true for the most part, that her spirituality is very isolating. I mean, we all have experienced that, but especially with the females in her life, the moon and Venus, the mother, it's very much more isolating than usual. But nevertheless, a very intuitive, more like body-based person here. Although the potentials of this chart haven't yet been reached completely. So we'll come back to this in maybe 10 years and see how she's going. It'll be very different, I think. Who's this? I remember this chart. Oh, this is a mess. He doesn't have Spica, actually. Yeah, that is one heck of a mess chart. We had another one here. Also, look, with Spica rising and Mars close by. Let me just move myself over there. Well, Mars in the 12th, technically, but kind of close. And Saturn setting. Spica rising and Saturn setting. So lots of what's the best way to analyze this? We could say that there's a spiritual interest, but there's a lot of fear that's stopping her from going into it. And I mean, it's just my perspective, but I've certainly seen that to be the case. And that'll be the case with actually everything in the life of somebody with a powerful Saturn like that. But yeah, and this comes up in other parts of the chart. We looked at it before with the sacred zones. Oh, wait, hold on. That's on my Patreon. Speaking of which, if you want to learn more about this kind of stuff and go even more in depth, check out my Patreon. I do hour-long lessons there every single week, and mastering these kinds of basics and fundamentals of ancient astrology. So that way, one day, you can put me out of a job. And I'll put the link in the description. But I won't go into it because it's too complex for this video. But yeah, this theme comes up again in the chart where there's this fear or some naivete or ignorance even, which delays the spirituality or complicates the spirituality, the spiritual path. I think this guy has Spica. No, he doesn't. It's something else. Where's the sun? Here, okay. Interesting. But not applicable. Shiv Spica. Let me see. Who's this? Oh, this is my friend. God, I've got some weird friends. So you can see here, his moon is in a parallel with Spica over the MC. The moon's 15 degrees from the MC, Spica's 15 degrees from the MC. So here's Spica. He's a very spiritual guy too. But his Mars is also there. So, well, I say he's actually not a very spiritual guy. He could be. But this Mars being connected really wounds his potential with the spirituality. Gosh, he's got Jupiter trining the sun. That's pretty amazing. I guess that makes sense, yeah, with his dad. Wow. But yeah, so this is a guy, I'll give you the real story. This is a guy who I've known for a very long time. Obviously, we get along, right? So he's got some spirituality, otherwise he couldn't get on with me. And he is always, or he's always too busy to come to any spiritual meeting or to learn anything spiritual. He's always busy working or well, you know what it's like, whatever it may be. He's always busy, not enough time. Or I actually think also it's about fear with him too. So there's a lot there, but just a good example of he has some spiritual affinity, but he won't follow up on it. And last one that I know very well. This is another moon with Spica and Mercury as well. Moon and Mercury with Spica up here in the 8th house. So very, very spiritual and very intellectual, very intelligent, very, very intellectual is the best way to put it, this woman. Hard to describe the difference actually, but a lot of energy will go into research, into verifying facts, into organizing details, into gathering information to see whether or not some spiritual idea or astrological thing is actually correct. That's really a theme here with this particular chart, and that's what she's doing. She's actually an astrologer just like me. Which you can also see in this chart with other stars, which maybe we'll look at later on. So anyway, I think you guys get the picture. My teacher has Spica. It just shows, it's just sort of a generic marker of spirituality. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. In the next video, I think I'm going to look at Regulus again because I don't know, I did the video a long time ago and I don't know how coherent it was or how complete it was. So I'll do that again soon and I will see you in the next one. And remember, my whole Patreon thing is in the description. So if you want to do that, check it out and I'll see you guys later. Ciao.